Testing. Do you hear me? Hello? Of course not. Testing.
It's working.
Okay, you put your mouth really close to it. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Louder? I feel like I'm being really loud already. Can everybody hear me okay? Welcome. I'm Megan Keefe. I am the team lead for the HR and Benefits Business Analyst to support our Connect Carolina system. We have a great presentation for you guys today. Lots of good information we're going to talk about. But before we get to business, I have two sort of fun items to do. So the first one is I want to give you a little staffing update on my group. So I have good news and bad news. So my good news is that we have a new senior HR business analyst who has joined the team, Harvey Farrell, and he's here with us today. So everybody say welcome to Harvey. Harvey has years and years of experience with the PeopleSoft system, so we are really thrilled to have him join our team. And I also have some sad news to share. Many of you may have worked with Martina Gargard, and she is leaving our team. She's accepted a promotional opportunity and is actually moving down the hill to UNCGA. So her first day with GA will be November 1st. So we're very sad to see her go, but happy for her, as this is a good move for her, we hope. All right, so the next fun bit of business I have, sometime in August, I believe it was the 12th, but I may be off a day, we had someone originate the 300,000th EPAR, and about seven days later, it successfully executed in the system. So we have a certificate commemorating that 300,000th EPAR, and a bag of swag, so full of UNC stuff and candy and some other good stuff. So this is for Kelly Armstrong. So Kelly, okay. So come on up. Thank you. Congratulations. Thanks. Thank you, Kelly. I hope you enjoy the swag. All right, so on to business. Up first is Stephanie Kidd. Come on up. And Chris has this one.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. I see a lot of familiar faces, but for those of you that don't know me, I recently joined back up with Payroll as their payroll manager. We're going to talk about the new updated payroll stuffs. I don't know if you guys noticed them last biweekly. Maybe you guys had some questions. We're just going to go over the fundamental differences of them this morning. Why are we doing this now? Well, it's been 3 years since implementation, and PeopleSoft has some really good delivered products. And so we wanted to go ahead and utilize those things so that our employees could get the benefit of the package delivered pay stub. And you'll see it gives a whole lot of detail and breakdown, so it makes reporting things easier, especially for those employees who are out of state. Again, nothing about the pay is changing. You guys didn't get all raises in your pay stubs, right? We didn't get any feedback on that there were extra zeros. It still has the same information, but a few key differences are it will break out before tax and after tax. So a lot of times when W-2s come out at the end of the year, people are like, I really made this amount of money. Why does it say this in box one? Well, that's actually your taxable amount. And so as you go along in the pay stubs, you'll be able to see it as it grows. On the left-hand or your left, you'll see what the pay stubs used to look like. You'll see there wasn't a whole lot of detail. It wasn't broken down before tax, after tax. You did have a leave box in the top corner, but now that's just moved. How many of you guys looked at the new pay stubs? Everyone? I should have seen hands for everyone, but I'm glad that you're truthful. This is an example of what it looks like now. So there's just a whole lot more detail. The example that we pulled is the majority of what campus employees are is a SHRA non-exempt pay stub. So it's the ones that are still logging hours in TIM. It's going to show you the vacation and sick time used on there. One question that has come up in the past couple weeks is, why aren't all of the buckets shown? We only had a little bit of space, so we picked the highlighted ones like sick and vacation and community service. And so, you won't see like disaster recovery or organ donation, but it'll be your major hitters. On this slide, it's just the description of the hours, what the hourly rate is for the employee. And so in the first columns, you'll see the hourly rate times the number of hours worked in each of the categories to get to your earnings. And then on your far side, you'll see the year to date. This is the vacation section that you used to see on the top part of your pay stub. Now it's just in the bottom, and it shows your vacation and sick. And then you'll see the leave date at the bottom. This is the biggest change, I think, in it. And again, it's just the before tax and after tax deductions that are happening. So you'll see which of your deductions are actually tax sheltered and which ones are taken after. And this is just the summary of where the federal tax goes. One other thing is that I don't believe we've ever shown the employer paid benefits. So I know HR sends out the summary of compensation every year, and it shows that where your fringe benefits are. But now it's calculating on your pay stub as well, so you can see that as it goes through the year. And then we just have more information on who the employee is, what their department is, what their title is, and what their annual salary is. So same information, it's just located on a different place. Your monthly employees will see it for the first time with the monthly payday. Your biweekly employees should have already seen it. And then you'll see it in the Gazette as well. So nothing major, it just looks different. Any questions? No? A quiet group. Okay, so Corey's up next.
I'm going to use that, yeah. Oh, it's just in my hand. And this is not working?
Oh, it is working.
It is, okay.
Give me a second. It takes a second to check.
Good morning. Good morning. How many of you received the October HR payroll update that we sent out a week or two ago? So a few of you. Did you see the part about lump sum payments? Yeah, awesome. So I'm going to go over what was in there and answer any questions about lump sum payments. I wanted to talk about the best practices for lump sum payments. This will help ensure that your EPARs execute successfully, that your payments are given to the employees on time, and that we prevent mid-stacks from happening, which cause major problems when trying to pay lump sum payments. I can't get this on. Okay. So first and foremost, you always want to use the first day of the pay period as the effective date of your lump sum. That's for biweekly and monthly employees. The EPAR the lump sum EPAR should be submitted in the pay period in which it will be paid. So you want to make sure it's got the first of the pay period and you submit it in that time frame for it to be paid on for that pay period. Please don't future date lump sum payments. That's one of the big things that causes mid-stacks. So as long as you're not future dating them, you should be good to go. And the EPAR should be submitted once the work is complete or the reason for the lump sum is passed. This will prevent overpayments, which we have seen from time to time. Any questions about the best practices? Okay. A couple other things. Be mindful of the year. Whenever we change calendar years, we see a lot of lump sum payments that are effective dated the previous year. And then also be mindful of your payroll lockouts always. Has everyone seen on Payroll's website, they've got the updated payroll lockout dates, and there's also a link to how to add your Outlook calendar for the HR payroll deadlines. I use it all the time. Okay, so some questions. What if there are multiple lump sum payments for the same payment type, same person? As long as the dates are the same and the payment types are the same, you can have as many as you need and they will all pay on time and successfully. So as long as that is all the same, you're good to go. That's why we're recommending the first of the pay period, and we're recommending that they're done in the current time frame. What about retro lump sums? So in those cases, you want to use the same best practices. Use the first of the month in which they're going to get paid for that lump sum payment. If the work was done in May and June, and you're only now finding out about it and you have to pay it, then you'd want to use, in this case, November 1st or the whatever biweekly we're right now. That said, the work period begin and end dates should always reflect the accurate time frame. That's for effort reporting. So make sure those dates accurately reflect those dates. What if I entered the wrong payment amount? So that happens from time to time. You find out after the fact you gave them too much or too little. If you gave them $500 and you meant to give them $600, you would submit another lump sum payment, same effective date, same payment type if you're in the same time frame, and enter the differential, $100. If you submitted too big of a lump sum payment, then you would want to submit one with the same effective date and with a negative amount and same payment type. Another reason to make sure you're following those best practices is negative lump sum payments are processed immediately. They do not look at the effective date. So if you have a future dated negative lump sum payment, it doesn't matter. It's going to come out of that person's paycheck immediately. The next paycheck it will come out. And so they should be submitted in coordination with when they should occur. There's one exception to the first day of the pay period, and that is if you're giving someone an MCD and their hire date isn't the first day of the pay period. So if they started the 15th of the month, if you put in the first, it's not going to execute. So always use their effective date of hire. Oh, sorry, mobile communication device. So some of our employees get a cell allowance. For those of you who saw the HR payroll update, we did also say that for pro rata longevity, that was another exception that you should use the last day the person's in pay status. We spoke with records, and in order to keep things as consistent and easy as possible, they agreed that it was fine that it's the first of the pay period of that person's last biweekly. So you can, again, use the first of the pay period in that case as well. If you use an effective date that's not the first of the pay period, please include comments in your EPAR and make a note of why you're using that date. That way, anybody who's approving it that may send it back to you because the first of the pay period wasn't used will know why you're using a date other than the first. Yes?
I have a question about changing funding on a NCD.
Okay.
I didn't really find out a good way to do it for documentation. So we have someone doing an NCD, but the funding on their position has changed, and so this needs to change too. Stop it and do a new one, or like do a fun swap?
That's a good question. So the question is, I'm going to repeat it, yeah. So the question is what to do if you have given someone an MCD and then you need to change the funding associated with that MCD. The way to handle that is to submit a new lump sum payment for that MCD with the updated payment funding amount, not payment amount, sorry, funding amount. And then payroll has something that they run where they see that funding has changed and they'll update that accordingly.
So you don't have to like stop.
No. No, I will say though, if you have someone that goes from SHRA to EHRA or EHRA to SHRA, I believe the proper setup is to submit the stop and then start a new one because it will not carry over from one employee group to another or one employee family to another. Yes?
I just wanted to add, because I had this happen. I I did that, but they were doubly paid, like 2 receiving payments. So you have to make sure to send a termination form or a form to notify payroll to stop the one and that you're starting with a new one, because I had double paid.
So they did become aware that that was a problem for a while. My understanding is they have an audit that they run to stop that from happening going forward, but it wouldn't hurt. If you want to, it's never going to hurt. And I recommend always looking at the prelims just to make sure that what you see in the prelim check is accurate. Is that right? Am I remembering that correctly, that they are doing an audit now? Okay. Any other questions, feedback, best practices that you want to share with the group?
An online question.
Okay.
Lisa asks, are there any best practices for mobile communication stipend lump sums? Specifically, if a chart field string needs to be corrected, it has resulted in duplicate payments in the past.
Yes, so we realized that has been a problem in the past. Confirmed that payroll is running an audit to catch any of those duplicates. The replacement or the e-part to update the funding should take care of it. Payroll's audit should take care of updating, but again, check the prelims, and you can submit a termination form to be on the safe side.
Sorry, just to add, if you do submit a termination form, depending on when they process it, they may actually then terminate the change you did. So I actually would be really cautious about submitting both things. So just
That's
as
what payroll told me, but
that was before we had the process a little better ironed out. So.
Yeah, so why don't we take it as a to-do to work with payroll, put together best practices with regard to NCDs changing funding, and then put it in the next digest or the HR payroll update and get that sent out. Does that work? Okay. Thanks. Yes.
What effective date would we use if we're trying to get a manual check request? Like if it should have happened in October and we were submitting the action today, would we use 10-1 or 11-1?
11-1.
Okay.
Yeah. So the question is if a lump sum payment was missed for October and then, oh no, wait, I'm so sorry. I'm very sorry. You're trying to get a manual check request? Okay. So the question is lump sum payment was intended for October, deadlines were missed, and now there's a reason to submit a manual check request for it. You would use October 1 in that case, because if you use November 1, payroll's not going to pay it until November. So you would want to use the date in which it should have been paid in that case. Yeah. The manual check requests are just exception-based only. Yeah. Other questions, feedback? Okay. And I have a quick update on mixing temporary types. SHRA temporary employees are always identified as either regular or intermittent, with the exception of our SHRA temp retirees. They're a separate temp type altogether. But so they are required to be identified as regular or intermittent. They are identified as such on the hire e-part. It's not associated with the position. It's associated with the person in the hire. And they should be the same. So if you have a temp that has multiple jobs, if they were established as a regular temp, then their secondary appointments should all be regular. If they were established as an intermittent, then any secondary appointments should also be intermittent. In legacy, once they were hired as such, any subsequent hires were updated accordingly. But in Connect Carolina, whoever's starting the hire e-part has the ability to pick one or the other. And they should be consistent. If we bring somebody on as regular, then all their other appointments should be regular. If we bring them on as intermittent, then all the other appointments should be intermittent. So you want to work with your departments when you realize you're hiring a secondary person to make sure the temp type is consistent and accurate, and to help identify if they're regular or intermittent, we're going to be adding the temp type field to the UNC employee information page. And it should be by the end of the week. Yeah, so it should be on Friday. So if you go to, how many of you go and use the UNC employee information page? Yeah, it's got a lot of helpful information on there if you don't have access to their job data. So it gives you a lot of information, but we will be adding that field so you can see if someone is currently active. You can see if they were established as regular or intermittent. We do have a handful of people that currently have both. So we'll be reaching out to the departments to get those cleaned up and monitor that periodically going forward. Any questions about that? Okay. Thank you. Which do you want? That's probably because I was playing with it. Which one do you want? I'll use the microphone. Actually, I'll use Thank you. Hello, good morning. I'm here to talk about Infoport and an exciting change that's coming mid-November. So hopefully you all use Infoport. Good. So we are adding, this is for position, for the position tab. So if you're on the HR Infoport and you're on the position tab, we've added 4 new filters to help you try to get your list of what responses you want to look at down to what you really care about. We've also put the filters in a little bit more of a logical order, as well as we've added a new data field on the response, the action reason code, the description. So that's what it looks like now. You've got 2 filters, department, full-time, part-time, you've got status and type. We've now added vacancy status, position type, because it's so descriptive, and time limited. I'm going to walk through each of these and show you what the filters will do. So, vacancy status. This one confuses many people. There are 3 options to your filter, and if you put no filter on, it's assuming you want to see all positions. If you select vacant, it will find all positions for which there is no current employee in that position. However, keep in mind, Infoport does not look at future transactions. So if you've terminated somebody for next month, they will still be in that position today. Filled is going to indicate if there is the same number of headcount people in that job. So for some EHRA positions, we allow for a multiple headcount. Just a caution, if you try to use this, everything about those 2 positions must be the same. Had to put that little note in there. So if the headcount is 4 and all 4 positions are filled, that will show filled. But if you've only got 3 people in a 4-person headcount, it will be partially filled, which is the 3rd filter. So if you're looking to see any positions that have any people in it, you probably want to click both of those, filled and partially filled. Any questions about vacancy status? Okay, moving on. Position type. Corey just talked about position. She talked about employee temporary types. These are specific to if the employee is permanent or temporary. So if the position is temporary or permanent, and I know there's been a lot of, especially for departments that have a lot of temp jobs, if you only want to see those positions that are permanent, that's a great filter to use, and it works really well. Type of position, maybe you want to define, you're only looking for a specific type of your positions, just your SHRA, perm. So all of these can work in conjunction with each other. Each filter just helps you filter down a little more. And then in case you wanted to look for just time limited or exclude time limited, you have your yes, no. Any questions on the filters? Okay, so when you get your results, we've added a new field on the very end, which is the action reason description. So just to put a plug in, this is another reminder why using an action reason code on the position that accurately reflects what you've last done is really helpful. If you are doing a position action and it has multiple things that you're doing, you're changing the reports to, you're changing the competency level, all of those, pick the one that's kind of the most important, so that will reflect. Typically the reports to isn't the most important if there are multiple things. When you use the download option, that field will come over as well into your Excel file. Any questions there? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Turner, who's going to talk about the auto terms. Which one do you want?
Yeah. I wore a coat today just to have a place to clip that and a pocket to put this in. So good morning. I am here to talk about the auto-termination process this morning. I want to start with a quick review of what we do today and then talk about some changes that we have coming along. So what do we do today? Every morning, we automatically terminate our SHRA temporaries and students with an expected job end date equal to or before the current date, which would be the date we're looking at. And I say automatically, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I like to say it's automagically, because this is actually a report that kicks out, and our help desk is getting in the morning and very quickly doing the work that we would have to do. And we appreciate their efforts. But we've really always wanted to automate this process. And so that's what we're moving to do. I would also point out that we don't automatically terminate anybody with an action in progress. If somebody's working on that person, we don't want to get in the middle of it. And so we go ahead and let that process go through. So as we were talking about going ahead and really automating the process, we started asking, are there any other groups we should be doing this with, especially EHRA students? The overwhelming answer that came back was yes, we would like that automated as well. And so that is the process we're getting ready to put in place. And we are going to look forward now a little bit into the coming year. And we're going to start by really automating the SHRA student intent process that's going on right now. And so the important difference on this group is that it's going to be happening very, very early, like in the early AM before anybody gets here. And so some people get in the morning about 8 o'clock and say, oh, I forgot to do that action on this person. It will be too late in the future to do that. And so we want to go ahead and let everybody know that's going to be happening early, get everything done the day before or the week before, whatever that process is. So along with automating that, it'll happen every day as it does now, and it won't auto-term anybody who has an action in progress. We're also then going to add an auto-term to the EHRA students, just students. And we're going to be doing this one day on the 15th of the month. And so on the 15th of the month, our process is going to go out again prior to office hours. And we're going to automatically terminate any EHRA student with an expected job end date in or before the current month. And we're going to use the effective date of the expected job end date. And so we're looking on the 15th. We're looking across the whole month. And so if we see somebody with an expected job end date on the 20th of the month, we will go ahead and put a termination action in place for the 20th. So even though it happens on the 15th, we're using that expected job end date to go ahead and run the effective date that way. And again, for this group, we also will not auto-term anyone with a action in progress, a higher job change, status change, or if we're in a payroll lockout. If we're in a payroll lockout, we don't take any actions on anyone. We also, there is an exception. We have an exception to everything. So our exception on this rule is going to be that we don't auto-term fellow trainees, and that's anyone in job code 800-171. They are not always wanting to be terminated. And so a lot of times it causes problems if we automatically do something to them. So we'll leave them out of the process. All of this is going to happen beginning in January. I will admit we've actually been testing the SHRA process, and it is working fabulous. It should be very transparent when that goes in. The EHRA will happen January 15th for the first time. There will be many communications coming about this to let everybody, to remind everybody it's coming. I have one of those communications, so thank you. And we'll be doing this in print in a number of ways and working with the change management team as well to make sure that everybody hears who needs to hear. Any questions on the new process that's coming up? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Silsby.
When the actions are done for, like, say, a future dated term, say on the 20th, if someone comes in and tries to do an extension, are they going to hit it's going to hit special integration broker?
It will. So the question was, if we do a future dated auto term and an action comes in to change that, will it cause an error at the integration broker? It will. And that will get that action will actually get seen by one of our business analysts, and we will take action to see what's supposed to happen there. So it becomes a manual process if that happens, but it will get seen. So, and then we'll go ahead and take care of it that way. Let's start here, then I'll come there. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
It seems like an option, but like if this process is going to be automated, is there a way to like automatically send like an email notification to like the creator of the class, like, hey, we're gonna terminate this person tomorrow or something?
Yeah, so I believe the question is there anyone to send an email notification to the HR officers to let them know that this is going to happen in advance, or to the originators? We had considered that, but we have a lot of emails that come out automatically to all of the schools and departments. And so what we've done is put in place a report, actually, that is the expected job end date report, I believe is the actual name. It's an InfoPort. And we encourage everybody to go out and run that on a regular, put it on the calendar, run it on a regular basis at the beginning of the month just to see who's coming up, and go ahead and take action. If we auto-term someone and you need to unterm them, that's a remedy ticket, and then that goes to the help desk where they go ahead and undo what we've automatically done. So you want to go ahead and get ahead of that anytime you can. And I believe there's a question right here next.
Actually, it's right into this report that I was hoping that expected job end date report.
Yes, ma'am.
So as part of Oracle, it should be that you can actually automate report and send it to departments. So after pay compute, when you finish 1 month, you run a report automatically said, these are all the employees under this department code that have a termination date of the next month, and send it automatically. Is that something you're looking into?
Actually, the question was, is there any way to automate a report at the end of the process that will come out to state this is the next batch of people that would need to be looked at? And we have actually looked at that, and the idea was not seen as beneficial when we talked to the campus leaders. Again, that just the sheer volume of emails that come out from the institution allows these to get buried very easily. It's much better to go ahead and be proactive, to just go ahead and put that report on your calendar and go and run that. So, but yes, we actually did look at that. It was a large conversation as we were going live around what emails to send and which ones not to send. And this was one that we said, let's put a report out there they can run every day if they'd like. And that way you all can really keep ahead of it. Any other questions? Did I see in the back? No? All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. We'll go back to Megan Keith. Get it out of my pocket now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do not have a good outfit on for this. I have no pockets. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. So how many of you have heard about the HR Payroll 9.2 upgrade? A few of you, okay. How many of you know why we're doing the 9.2 upgrade? Okay, so I'm glad we're talking about this then. So there are a lot of good reasons why we're doing the 9.2 upgrade. So first and foremost, this is Oracle's new version of the PeopleSoft product. It's going to allow us to, in the future, take advantage of a lot of new software features. One of the big things that you'll see on the next slide that they talk about is called Fluid, and it's just a different way of presenting some of the pages that you use in Connect Carolina, particularly the pages that are more end-user facing. So think things like employee self-service and manager self-service, things that like all of our employees or all of our managers would be doing in the system, and really trying to make those more accessible to mobile devices. So somebody who only goes into the system to look at their paycheck or look at their employees' training results, those sort of things, they might not be doing it from a laptop or a desktop. They might be doing it from an iPad or a phone. So in the future, we'll be able to take advantage of those kind of features. One of the most important reasons for doing the upgrade is that it ensures that we'll be able to receive ongoing support from Oracle for their product. Oracle regularly releases things like tax updates and bundles. So if there's a change in a tax regulation, if there's a federal requirement around how we report on veterans data, race, ethnicity, those sorts of things, like we need to be getting those updates so that we can keep the system up and running and compliant. And then finally, one of the biggest things that the new version does is try to address accessibility issues for people who may be using screen readers and those sort of things. So this is a really high-level look at our timeline. I think everybody in here probably knows the outage last weekend was for the Campus Solutions 9.2 upgrade. Is everybody familiar with that? Okay. So their upgrade was actually really successful. Corey and I actually came in over the weekend on Sunday to test and make sure that they hadn't broken anything. And it went really well. We were expecting to have to be there for a couple of hours, and I think it ended up being maybe 45 minutes. It was actually nice and smooth, which is a good thing. So cross your fingers that ours goes as smoothly as theirs does. So we're well into our upgrade cycle. We've done some initial creation of environments. We've already done a few initial rounds of testing to make sure that functionality works. And we are well into our second phase of testing right now. And we are currently targeting a go-live date in early March of 2018, so not too far away. We were initially looking, the slide's actually a little bit out of date. We were looking at going either the second or third weekend in March, but one of the lessons we learned as part of the Campus Solutions upgrade that happened over the weekend is that we do not want to do a big system upgrade while we are in the middle of a payroll lockout. That is just a really bad idea and would cause all kinds of problems for actions that are in progress. So we're actually, I think we're looking at going the first weekend in March at the moment. That's still a sort of soft date. We haven't finalized it yet. So while this is primarily a technical upgrade, which is really just a lift and shift, so we're going to, put the new version on, but we're not going to redo all of our business processes. We're not going to implement whole new modules. We're not going to look at replacing TIM with time and labor, that sort of thing. We did want to add some value to the system where we could. So there were a lot of different things that we looked at and considered implementing as part of 9.2. And this is a list of some of the things that we considered. Obviously, we can't do all of those at the same time. So there was a whole group that we eliminated right up front and said, yes, these are things that we do want to do at some point in the future. So these are all on our future project list, but we're definitely not going to consider them as part of the 9.2 upgrade. And that last bullet's actually incorrect. So you'll see when we get to the next slide. So this is the short list of things that we're actually going to try to implement at the same time as 9.2. Probably the one you care about the most is the first bullet. We are trying to find a way to provide you guys with funding information on the job and position data pages. So if you're an HR rep and you have access to the job data page and the position data page, we are looking at ways to show you funding information from those same pages so that you will have a view into that in the system. Actually, the second one may be even more popular than the first one. We are also looking at eliminating unnecessary budget workflow. So if you go in and do an action and don't change funding and don't change the employee's salary, there's no reason for that to route to a budget approver, right? So if you're doing something like a TIM approver chain, a budget approver doesn't need to look at that. So we're going to remove those unnecessary budget workflows, and actions will only flow to budget approvers in the future if salary actually changes on the action. We are looking at fixing some bugs with our custom affiliate pages, and we're actually thinking, the developers have just been in looking at this over the last 2 weeks, and they think that the fixes are much easier than they were initially estimating. So we're actually looking at getting these in ahead of the 9.2 upgrade. I think we'll probably have these in before the end of the year. We are changing some field label layout on our custom position data page. So this is the position data page that has UNC in front of it. That's how you know it's custom. We have had some tickets in from users who have access to that page using a certain browser. What ended up happening was the field labels in one column on the page are really misaligned. They're on the wrong side of the field. And what was happening in this certain situation was that the labels were kind of wrapping around and making it very difficult for the user to be able to tell which field the label was actually applying to. So this is a relatively simple fix. Since this is a custom page, our technical team has to go in and touch it anyway as part of the 9.2 upgrade. They have to go in and do retrofits on everything that we've modified in the system. So we figured it was the perfect time to get them in there and get that corrected. And then finally, one of the things we looked at was there's some pretty cool delivered functionality in PeopleSoft 9.2 for generating org charts for managers. So we are still trying to get this in if we can. If we can put it in using just the delivered functionality and we don't have to customize it at all, I think this would be a big win, because it'd be really nice to be able to just go in and have the system generate your org chart for you, right? So that one's still under consideration. Any questions about any of the 9.2 stuff? Did that give you guys a better idea about kind of why we're doing it and what we're trying to do? And our hope is that, so once we go live with 9.2, then we'll have the opportunity after that to really start to take advantage of some of that new functionality. Turn it back over to Ann.
I'm back. I have some reminders. Let's talk about terminations and rehires. So we want to avoid terms followed by a rehire when there is no break in service. It causes reporting issues. It makes it look like our headcount and turnover reports are all out of whack. So when there is no break in service and weekends don't count, so employee A leaves job 1 on a Friday and starts a new job here at UNC on Monday, that's not a break in service. Those should be done as hire transfers, not as a term rehire. The one exception is for our retirees. Retirees must have an actual termination action. That does a whole lot of processing in terms of their benefits. And without that, their benefits keep on going, and that's not what we intend. The reminder about retirees is that if they were in the ORP program, they're supposed to, it's recommended, sorry, I'll use the right language, it's recommended that they take at least a 30-day break between retiring and coming back as a temp. And with teasers, they must take a 6-month break. So clearly the termination would make more sense there anyway. Any questions about term rehires versus transfers? Okay. When you are doing a termination for an employee and they have a secondary job, we recommend, if you want it to all go smoothly, that you terminate the secondary jobs first. If you terminate the primary job and then start your secondary job terminations, the system is trying to figure out how to route this EPAR for approvals. It's looking for a primary job. Well, you just terminated it. So now there is no primary job, and it goes, I don't know what to do. So clearly, and then you put in a help desk ticket saying, this stopped in routing. That's why. So wherever possible, do your secondary terminations first. If somebody is resigning or retiring and leaving the university, those secondary jobs should be terminated as well. And if it's not your department, reach out to the department who has that secondary job or secondary jobs and ask them to start those actions. The only exception I would say is if you are coming close to a payroll lockout and all the compensation is on that primary job and you don't want that person to get overpaid, that's more important. So terminate the primary job. But if I would like to hope in the real world, people that you know in advance that they are resigning or, all right, I said I'd like to hope that you don't find out after the fact and you have enough time to go ahead and get those secondaries termed first. It will do better. Questions about terminations and secondary jobs? Yes, we have a question.
I would like to see how many months it's optional.
2. Oh, yes. The question was for the ORP was recommend 30-day break, and teasers it's a 6-month break. You're welcome. Other questions? All right, I'm turning it over to Alex, who's going to talk about training resources and an upcoming event. Which one do you want?
I don't care. Testing 1, 2. So for those of you who have not met me, I'm Alex Smith. I'm a business analyst, first-time caller, long-time listener kind of situation. So this is my first time presenting at this conference. For those of you who are online, I'm tall and have lots of wavy hair. So all the things that I'm going to tell you today probably are things that you already know, but it's oftentimes helpful to be reminded of some of those things, and occasionally there are new people and new roles that need to be updated on that. So if any of you next month want to put in a lump sum payment and you think, oh man, Corey gave us that wonderful update about lump sum payments and I can't remember exactly what I was supposed to do, where would you go? ccinfo.com. That's correct. ccinfo is your... Don't press the arrow button.
There's a black on screen.
Right.
Stick to the arrows.
That was the arrow. Well, this was my last time also presenting at the meeting. Thank you all for coming. ccinfo.unc.edu. That is your one-stop shop for all your Connect Carolina needs. There's a lot of really good resources and information there that the communications team puts a lot of time and effort into retaining for the HR reps. So things about outages and announcements, previous user group slides, also for you newfangled kids who watch YouTube videos of the presentations are also available if you're more interested in listening. There's great training guides for the more in-depth, if you really need to get down to the nitty-gritty about something and you're one of those people who like to find the answer yourself. Student Originators Guide or HR training classes, advanced classes, all of that information is available. On the slide here, I have the pull down for the HR payroll menu list at CC Info. So just as a good reminder that what a good resource this is. And on the we've talked a little bit about InfoPort and the use of that. That's one of the things that I think from our business analyst group that we really hope that users out on campus are taking advantage of. So to that HR payroll reports guide under the reporting tab has a really good summary of what are all the reports that we've already made available that you need to review and what do you use them for. That's another good resource to check out. Okay, successfully advanced to the next slide. Other resources. Everyone knows that 962 help will get you to the university help desk. For any of you who are not aware, pressing 3 immediately then gets you to the business systems help desk, which for all the people listening online and here in the room is probably the help desk that you need if you have a problem with an HR transaction. Anything that related to Connect Carolina, people admin as well, other business systems, will quickly get you to a more specific help requester rather than someone who's I can't log into my computer, or unc.edu is down. What do I do? The business systems help desk is really your first line of support. And whenever those technical questions can't be answered by that help desk, that's when it gets advanced up to the business analysts. So we are here to help. Please ask first. I thought just a helpful reminder when you run into those. I mean, I've been here for a little over a year and a half, and probably every week there's wow, I've never run into this situation before. What are we supposed to do now? So we realize that is happening on campus. So the call beforehand to say, I'm not really sure how I should do this, is the old ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure kind of situation. We're very happy to field those calls and those help ticket requests to make sure that you're getting it done right. Sort of along those lines, then it's just announcing right here, we're going to revisit our student originators kind of more in-depth training. We did this last year. It's now been a year, so that, again, I'm sure there's been some turnover for people who are student originators specifically. It is targeted only for those users. So complex users, you're more than welcome to join if you'd like. But for most student originators, most of the training is just computer-based. And so we don't necessarily get into a lot of specific detail about the nuances of handling our student employees. So we're going to revisit that training. Everyone who is a student originator should have received an email, I think this week. It looked a little bit like this. If you did not get that and you would like to attend that training for whatever reason, the email address here at the bottom is the email address to ask for the invite. We are asking everyone to register. So there's a register link in that email. So if you do plan to attend, please please register for that training. Exactly the same information that was covered in 2016 for student originators. So again, if you're newer, if you want to refresh, or if you want to skip away from your workday for some fun training, you're more than welcome to attend. We hope that you will. I think that we have now come to the end, full stop, of any other questions about those resources, training, any other try to stump the new guy questions you want to throw out, you're also welcome to do that. No? If not, okay. Then looks like Megan is coming up to fire me, and
Thank you, Alex. Alex has spent a lot of time on the stage in a prior lifetime. I just wanted to thank you all for coming, and we are looking to get feedback from you all on the content that we're using for these sessions. So feedback on, was the information we presented today helpful? What are things you would like to see us cover that we didn't in the future? So if you could get us that information, you can send it directly to me, and if you want to say terrible things about us, you can send it to the Connect Carolina training info as well, and they'll get that passed along to us. So, any questions from anybody on anything we talked about today? All right, well, thank you all very much. We appreciate your time.
Good job.
Thank you.